Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Bagakr Ahmed and welcome to today's video. Today I want to be going ahead and speaking about Syria once again as it is the topic of discussion. I want to go ahead and speak about how Israel has bombed it over 800 times. Since they went ahead and gained their freedom, Israel has pushed in and has been bombing the hell out of Syria. So we want to go ahead and check that out and see what the Western media is actually reporting on this. How is the Western media reporting on Israel bombing these areas in Syria, trying to expand their operations in Golden Heights, and what is going on right now with al-Jolani, with all of these groups that are within Syria? Within Syria, there are many military groups, including ISIS, including this new group that just took over and kicked out Assad. And a lot of these groups work with other countries, like Turkey, like America, like Great Britain, and they're funded and paid, and weapons are sent to them so they can mess up the country, so they can disband the country and break down the powers and break down the government. And it worked. And now al-Jolani's in power. al-Jolani has already said he's not going to go ahead and fight Israel. Israel's bombing the country that he just took over, which is very convenient for the United States, very convenient for Israel, very convenient for al-Jolani, right? Someone's bombing your country, you're not going to do anything about it. I just find this very iffy, very interesting, and inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects the Syrian people. They have been through enough to be playing these political games, to be playing these games with a bunch of groups. Yes, I know you guys want to be happy. Yes, I know these guys are supposed to be liberation, freedom fighters, but I don't believe that. I believe that Syria has just entered its next stage of something much worse than the Assad regime, but only time will tell, and inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects our Syrian brothers and sisters and allows them to be safe and to be away from any of these individuals that want to treat them like a property, that want to treat their land like a property, like just treat it like it's some, like garbage, right? Like it's something to be passed on or traded on. Their life is something to be passed on or traded on. It makes me sick what happens in the Middle East and how it just spreads like an infection in each and every country. And each and every country has their own problems. But the way that the West magnifies it by 1,000 is insanity to me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this and see what Democracy Now! Has to say about the 800 explosions that have been happening in Syria from Israel since the takeover.
This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give.
Israel is continuing to bomb Syria a week after Syria's longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad was ousted from power. Last night, Israel dropped what has been described as an earthquake bomb on Syrian military and air defense sites in the coastal Tartus region. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights described Israel's bombing as the heaviest strikes in Syria's coastal region in more than a decade. According to the group, the Israeli forces have launched over 800.
So Israel's excuse to launching the biggest strikes on Syria in over 10 years is you guys got a change in power. The guy we actually hated and resisted us our whole entire existence, the Assad regime, him and his father and his father's father, the people that hated us the most and didn't let us do anything or control anything outside of this area. Now that they're gone and this other group came in that works for the United States, was funded by the United States, we're going to bomb the crap out of Syria now. Now when Assad's in power. Now. This is very interesting. That Israel thinks it's okay to go ahead and when someone's wounded or crippled and not even fighting them, to go and just wound them and cripple them even more. And then they want to complain about how they have the right to defend ourselves and October 7 is the worst. But what about this? Where's the excuse for this? I want my Jewish Zionist followers. I want the people who want to make excuses for Israel. What is the excuse for this? To where you just see another country get weakened a little bit, lose their power structure, and you just go start bombing it 800 times? Destroying its infrastructure and its military bases and all of this stuff within the week that it's getting a change in power. At least let the change in power take place. Go ahead and talk to the people who took power. No talking. Just boom.
Strikes on Syria over the past week.
And you guys want to call this a democracy. You guys want to call this, they're the most nice army. They warn people before they blow them up. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. This army has one objective, and it's to colonize. It is to grow. It is to take over, just like the United States of America. These are colonizing nations. There's nothing past that. They don't care about your safety. They don't care about your money. They don't care about your health. They just want to blow you up and take your land.
The Israeli government has also approved a plan to expand illegal settlements in the occupied Golan Heights. This comes days after Israel invaded Syrian territory to seize more of the Golan Heights. In a statement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, quote, strengthening the Golan Heights is strengthening the state of Israel and is especially important at this time. We will continue to hold on to it, make it flourish, and settle it.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has confirmed the Biden administration's been in direct contact with Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the Islamist Syrian armed group that led the surprise offensive that toppled Assad.
So first, yes, we've been in contact with HTS and with other parties. We have impressed upon everyone we've been in contact with the importance of helping find Austin Tice and bringing him home. And we've also shared the principles that I just laid out for our ongoing support, principles, again, that have now been adopted by countries throughout the region and well beyond. And we've communicated those. That's direct contact, yes.
Blinken made the comments in Jordan over the weekend. He also visited Turkey and Iraq to discuss the future of Syria. We go now to Marwan Bashara, senior political analyst at Al Jazeera. He's joining us from Doha. If you can start off by responding to the latest, Marwan. Thanks for joining us again.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad that the both of you are there in the studio. The last time
You know what's interesting about these democracies like America? America constantly goes to other nations to speak about how the political aspects or what this next country is going to look like after it's seized, taken over, blown up, destroyed, and turned into a democracy. I find it very interesting that a democracy, instead of going to the people of Syria or figuring out what the people of Syria want or how the people of Syria want to live or how the people of Syria want as a leader or what the people of Syria, just about the people, right? Because America is all about we are the people, democracy, give all the power to the people. Why is it always like, the United States of America went to Turkey and Iraq to discuss with Turkey and Iraq the future of Syria. Like, why is Iraq and Turkey and America determining the future for Syrians? That's my question. And this is coming from someone who lives in America, who lives in a democratic state. Why, as a democratic state who wants democracy for the world, who blows up everyone to create democracy for them, right? So you blow people up to create a democracy for them. Why aren't you letting the Syrian people choose what they want? Why do you go to the Middle East and start creating deals and start talking to other countries about what you want to do in Syria and what power you want to implement in Syria and what laws you want to implement in Syria? Why are you not allowing the Syrian people to do it, Mr. Democracy? If you're not a colonizer, if you're not a dictator, why, if America's not a dictator, does America not care about the democracy of anyone else? They don't care about the democracy of their own people.
I was with you, the both of you were there, and I was with Noam Chomsky, and we discussed the Arab Spring. It was the first 2 weeks of it.
Wow. Well,
13 years ago.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Oh, and a belated happy birthday to Noam Chomsky, who turned, I think it was 96 on December 7th. Marwan, if you can talk now, I wish we could have Noam Chomsky responding as well, but if you can talk now about the latest news, and then we're going to go back to look at the toppling of Assad. But right now, this latest news of the attacks on Syria, I think the number of Israeli strikes is at about 800 now.
That's nuts. 800 strikes on Syria. Bro, the guy literally just got kicked out of the government like a week ago. This happened a week ago, guys. And Israel's already bombed 800 times. On top of that, Blinken himself on the American stage literally said, we have been talking to al-Jolani. We've been talking to the people who just took over the Syrian government. We've been in contact with them. We've been in contact with them. You funded them. You helped them. I'm not stupid. This is what the United States has been doing, and they've been funding these proxy groups within all of these regions. They did it in Libya, they did it in Iraq, they did it in Afghanistan, they did it in Syria. They do it everywhere, right? But it's crazy how they just back up and they blame Islam, they blame the Middle East, they blame all these Muslims, but they're the ones funding these political games. They go to these people in these groups and they go, we'll give you billions of dollars, multi-millions of dollars, and promise you the ownership of this country and the leadership of this country as long as you just be our puppet and listen to what we do. So we tell you what job to do and you do the job, and we pay you and we make sure you remain in power in this country. And that's what these people do. Do you think al-Jolani, he cares so much that if the United States of America came to him and said, you want to run a country? Do you want billions of dollars? Do you want government infrastructure at your fingertips? Just listen to what we say. And he's like, oh, no, I love Syria. I love the people. Like, you guys have to really, really understand this guy is from al-Qaeda. This guy's from ISIS. The guy who's literally running Syria right now, who just took over Syria. Just because he rebranded his name and put on a different color turban and shirt doesn't make him a good guy. You guys have to be very, very careful with what's happening in Syria right now, because a lot of these groups are paid and funded by the United States and controlled by the Western powers. And you guys don't want to be colonized by Israel. You guys don't want to be colonized by the United States of America. You guys like being Arab. You guys like Islam. You guys like Christianity. You guys don't like liberalism. But you have no problem accepting it when it's being paid for and pushed at your fingertips. Because liberation, but it's not liberation. It's real enslavement. It's enslavement without knowing, is what it is. It's enslavement while they lie to you about being free.
It's truly incredible. Israel is setting new precedents in the Middle East. It has been doing so for the past 75, 80 years, but this week, the way it's acting so lawlessly against Syria, as a rogue state, basically bombing the hell out of its neighbor, simply because there has been a change of rulers in Damascus, attempting a peaceful transitional governing there, taking care of the people, and sending all kinds of signals that they have absolutely zero intentions of getting into war with anyone. And yet, this what's called strategic opportunism on the part of the Netanyahu government, also political opportunism, just while he is on trial for corruptions and the rest of it, being a war criminal also, he's stealing the show by deflecting from what's going on in Israel, attacking Syria everywhere in Syria, while at the same time expanding in the southern part of Syria beyond the already occupied Golan Heights. And as you said, he's trying to double the illegal settlements in the Golan Heights. So all in all, Israel and Netanyahu are sending exactly the wrong messages, doing
exactly the opposite of what's coming out of their mouth. Israel is saying we have the right to defend ourselves. We just want a Jewish nation, a small Jewish nation for all these Jewish people. There's only 15 million of us. There's not a lot of us. We just need a small nation and we're good. But every single time that's the case, they are expanding. They have illegal occupations. They're building Jewish settlements in neighborhoods, in towns, on top of Syrian land, on top of Palestinian land, on top of Lebanese land. Why? If that's not your land, why are you building Jewish settlements on it? Why are you running your currency on it? Why are you trading back and forth from it? If it's not yours, if it's someone else's, why are you occupying it and building on it? There's a difference if you take a land, you occupy it as like political gain, right? Like, I'm not giving you back this land until you sign these trade deals. Okay. But the fact that you're building on it and moving your population into it means we just want to colonize it. You don't have any plans on giving it back to Syria or giving it back to Lebanon or giving it back to Palestine, because you're building on it. What are you going to do? Tell your own citizens, pack up your bags, we're going to knock down your houses and relocate you? No, you're building on that land so they can't be relocated, so that it's no longer going to be Palestine, so that it's no longer going to be Syria. And bit by bit by bit by bit that you move these people into these areas, in these occupied areas of Syria, like the Golan Heights, and these occupied areas in the West Bank, and these occupied areas of South Lebanon, then those areas will become Jewish areas, and then it won't even become a part of that country anymore. You have colonized it. You can't take them out. The only way to take them out is to blow up the civilization of Jewish people that you created in occupied territory, and to take the land back the same way you took it. Blowing it up and building on it is the only way to go ahead and take it back. So it's getting very, very sickening. The fact that Israel is the most sane army in the world, and they warn people, and they do this and do that, and there's such a good army, and they just need to defend themselves. What is up with Syria? And are they defending themselves in Syria right now? No, they're playing the offense. They're bombing Syria actively because they know it's weak. For no other reason.
Exactly the wrong provocations, and at the same time setting precedents for rogueness that I think it might not come to bite them soon, but it probably could later.
And your response, Marwan, to the summit that was held in Jordan over the weekend, what do you think came out of it, and especially Secretary of State Blinken being there?
You know, the first impression is to remember back the leaders, parole, parole, parole. You know, sometimes it feels like only words and more words come out of Arab leaders and Arab summits, especially those with the United States. But then if you look a little more deep into it, you would know that a lot of those leaders who were convening the summit in Aqaba have already been normalizing relations with the former Assad regime, despite its murderous corruption, despite its narco-state criminal kleptocracy. They've invited him back in the Arab League in 2022 and embraced him in 2023, and they were actually strengthening economic relations with him, the most of them. But now they were suddenly meeting together and to talk about human rights and peaceful transition and minority rights in Syria, as if moving forward, or as if the past 60 years, it was mainly the majority rights that were violated in Syria by the Assad dictatorship. Be that as it may, I think while they sing from the...
So you guys know, Bashar al-Assad, the former president of Syria who was just kicked out, he had a long regime going with his family. They were kind of like monarchs in a way. And this gentleman was Alawi. He was not even like a main sect of Islam like Shia or Sunni, even though Sunni Islam is the major sect. He wasn't even Shia, he was Alawi. These individuals believed that the cousin of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, Imam Ali alayhi salam. I am Shia. I don't believe Imam Ali is anything of divinity. He is the cousin of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and he is one of the most knowledgeable and most amazing human beings you could ever learn Islam from, the Sunnah of the Prophet, okay? Because he lived within the household of the Prophet, and he was one of the best individuals with a track record in Islam, okay? So, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us Imam Ali alayhi salam, but these Alawis, right, they worship him. They believe Imam Ali, astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayk, is Allah incarnated in human form. Kind of like the Christians believe Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, is the incarnation of God. They believe that Imam Ali is the incarnation of God, which I find extremely radical. It completely counteracts the Quran. It completely counteracts everything about Islam. So I don't understand how they get this concept. I don't know where it really comes from or who has built this concept, but I understand the difference between traditions in Islam and then Islam itself, right? But this isn't something like some of the bid'ah that we find in Sunni or Shia Islam, right? Like Shias who go like this. There's a difference between, tapping your chest and then believing God is incarnated in human form, then worshiping a human. That's like straight shirk, and it needs to be taken out. Whereas something like a tap on your chest is like a traditional thing that shouldn't be done, in my opinion. Or, Tarawih prayer that was gone ahead and given by Umar. It wasn't even given by the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This was something that was innovated by Umar and called a good bid'ah by Umar himself. This is something that all Sunni Muslims do during Ramadan, during the night times, the Tarawih prayer. So innovations happen, right? And some of them, they are what they are. Some of them, they're not going to send you to the hellfire. But some of them, these aren't even innovations. Like worshiping Imam Ali is not an innovation. This is straight shirk. This is straight shaitanish. And this was the type of ideology, this is the type of religion that Assad the former president of Syria believed. This was his sect of Islam. And the minority group of Islam, this extreme ideology that believed that they worship this man, they were the ones in power. They were the ones that had political power. They were the ones that had military power in the region. So he was talking about how the majority of Syria is going ahead and being, oppressed. He's talking about the Sunni population because Bashar did not like Sunnis. He's Alawi and they don't like him. So he made it very hard for them. And majority of Syria is Sunni Muslim. So he made it very hard for the majority of his population. And this is what this gentleman is talking about right here.
Same sheet. I think they have very different approaches to what security means, to what stability means in Syria, to what even terrorism means. They don't agree on this, that, and the other thing. And in fact, each and every one of the major powers in that meeting supports different militia, different military force in Syria. Just to give you a simple example, we have now, 5 or 6 military forces in Syria. We have the Free Syrian Army, we have the National Syrian Army, we have the militias, Syrian forces in the south. We have the Syrian Democratic Forces, and we have, of course, HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, all in addition to Assad's forces that remain there, as well as ISIS. A lot of these groups are supported by some of these people convening, including the Turks and the Emiratis and the Jordanians and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a very complicated way forward, and I remain doubtful that the Arab regimes are serious about assisting the Syrian people moving forward.
He's right. He finds it very doubtful that the Arab leaders want to help the Syrian people moving forward. It has nothing to do with the people. It all has to do with money, power, control. And he's 100% right. He's also talking about he doesn't understand how this is going to go ahead and take place. In Syria, there are more than 5 large military groups, including ISIS, including the one that just took over here, and he named them. And he was explaining, like I was explaining at the beginning of the video here, that Turkey, Great Britain, America are funding a lot of these different groups. Funding will stop for some of these groups. Funding will be, tripled, quadrupled for some of these groups. And what happens in Syria is really like a free-for-all right now. It's very, very, very scary. I know that the Syrian people are cheering and they're excited because Bashar al-Assad is gone, and I'm excited as well. I'm very, very happy for this. But at the same time, there's no structure in the country. Israel is bombing your country from the outside in. There's no leadership, and the leader who is there is probably a puppet for the United States of America and was paid to be there. So it's very, very, very important at this exact point in time to be very, very, very careful when it comes to stuff like this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go ahead and end it right here, but I want you guys to be very, very, very aware and be very, very open-minded to when it comes to politics, when it comes to the takeover of complete countries. It's not as simple as, oh, finally, we're happy. It's been 30 years. Oh, we're trying to get rid of Assad, and Assad's gone, and we're happy. Who cares what happens? Nuke us now. We're just happy. Like, you guys have to be very, very, very careful, because what you had before can get worse. You can get a worse leader. You can have worse circumstances. You could literally lose your whole entire country within a 5 to 10 year span to Israel, to the United States. You can literally lose the whole country. It won't even be called Syria anymore. So please, 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 my Syrian brothers and sisters, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, I am so happy for you. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps giving you the power, keeps giving you the will to fight, to stay strong, and to keep your country. But right now, as you can see, there's a lot of forces working against you guys. They don't care about the Syrian people. They care about what is politically correct to them, what politically will benefit them. Israel is starting their occupations in the Golan Heights. And the United States of America is funding the party that just took out the Syrian government. So be very, very, very careful. Your number one enemy is controlling the takeover of Syria right now, and you guys are very excited about it. So be very, very, very careful what you're cheering on. And be very, very aware. Please, ladies and gentlemen, do not listen to everything you hear. Hear information, take it in, write it down, understand it, but don't just run around with your narrative and try and debate everyone and try and be right, because things are very, 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 very complex. I could be wrong about all this. You could be wrong about all this. But what we're seeing right now is very complex. So it's not as easy as, oh, Assad's gone, be happy, everything's over. It's not as simple as that. So thank you guys so much for coming today. God bless every single one of you. And until next time, free Syria, free Lebanon, free Palestine, free the whole Middle East, free the whole entire world from this deception and corruption. And until next time, God bless and bye-bye. Bye-bye.